Hello, everybody, and welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergans, founder of Enso Coaching and Consulting, and we have a very special guest today. One of my favorite humans on planet Earth, Ms. Mo Anderson. Hi, Mo.
Hello, Leslie. This is exciting.
It's so exciting. And, you know, Mo, you were the CEO of Keller Williams when I started working at Keller Williams in 2004. I was a lowly little front desk person and worked through that organization. And ultimately, you became a very cherished friend of mine. And, you know, and it's an amazing journey from being you were my CEO for such a long time. And through our journey together, I got to learn from you. And that's why this is such a special gift for me.
Well, we caught on that you were talent, so you kept moving up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What an honor, right? Well, you know, Mo, I thought we could just start by talking a little bit about your journey. You are a partial owner and have made such a huge impact to so many people's lives over the course of your time at Keller Williams. And it all starts from a very early point in your life. And so I thought we could just start with, where did you come from?
I came from Oklahoma. I know that's hard for a Texan.
Yes. She is a Sooner, people.
But I had never heard of Keller Williams because actually it was founded by Joe Williams and Gary Keller. And I certainly helped him in the early days, but it was founded for several years before I ever heard of it. And I heard of it because Gary Keller called me. He had heard of me, and he called me, and it's a good thing we didn't have caller ID back then because I didn't know him, and I probably wouldn't have answered the phone. You know how that goes with caller ID?
Exactly.
And thank goodness I answered the phone, and it was somebody named Gary Keller. And he began to tell me about he had a company, a real estate company called Keller Williams, and he knew I was in the real estate business. So he began to develop a relationship with me, and he told me about founding his company and about the birth of his child, the sleepless nights, and he even talked about his guitar. Well, with me being an old former music teacher, I love that. He talked about his church. He talked about many things that you discover about one another in a conversation. And then he began calling me frequently, so I felt like I was really getting to know him, and yet he didn't talk that much about the company. So one day he calls and says, "May I fly to Oklahoma City and meet you?" And this was very interesting that he would want to do that. Although I certainly had experience in real estate. I had owned a Century 21 office, and it was number 3 in the nation for a period of 5 years. Actually, it was number 3 on the continent.
Wow.
Because we were included with Canada, and C21 was pretty popular in Canada at the time. So he flies to Oklahoma City to meet me. I told him I'd be wearing a blue suit with a name badge. And those were in the days when you could go down to the area where the people deported from the plane. So I had a vision of him in my mind since I'd never seen a picture of him. And I thought he was probably about 50 years old with graying hair, looked like a banker, I suspected. And I kept looking for this middle-aged gentleman. And suddenly, this kid comes up to me, sticks out his hand, and says, "Hi, I'm Gary Keller." And the first thing that I spoke was, "I'm old enough to be your mother." But that day, he spent showing me many articles about the history of real estate, some about the future of real estate, and yet he didn't talk about his company. He talked about the business itself. And then a short time later that evening, we took him back to the airport. And driving home, my husband said to me, "This is really fascinating," because he was 34 years old at the time. I was 54 at the time, 20 years older than he is. And Richard said, "That young whippersnapper knows more than anybody we've met in Century 21 or Prudential or any of the other franchises." And then when we really began to discuss what little bit we did know about KW, it was pretty fascinating. Then later, Gary called me one day and said that he was having a meeting with a national marketing firm, and I happen to know quite a bit about that marketing firm because they were the ones who marketed Century 21, and I owned a Century 21 franchise in the past. So I was pretty shocked that he could get them because I knew he was very small and was just beginning. So Gary said, "Come to Austin on such a date." And I went there and learned about the decision-making model, the economic model of the company, and I learned about the cultural model. And I was really intrigued.
Interesting.
So the second day of the meeting, it was a 3-day meeting, I met Gary at the door and I said, "I don't want to talk to you about a training contract. I want to take your ideas and your concepts to Oklahoma and build a region because there was no other region than Texas." And he hesitated because he didn't have a franchise document that had been written. Finally, he said, I can't do it. I don't have a document. And I said, "Yes, you can, because Oklahoma is a non-disclosure state. And all I have to have is a letter from you saying you've given me permission to use your models and systems." And I stuck out my hand because I so wanted to be a part of these models and help him build. And finally, he shook my hand. So I said to him while I was gripping his hand tightly, "My dad taught me that a handshake was more precious than a contract." That's how we went into business together.
That's amazing. Well, what was it, Mo? It seems like there are a couple of things, right? Gary's how he approached you and how he engaged you. It wasn't an outright sell. It wasn't
Right.
it was like a series of
Getting to know
meticulous
you.
conversations, right? Purposeful conversations. So there's that piece. And then there's also what you learned about the company when you did start talking about it. What what was special about both of those buckets
The
for
number
you?
one thing to me that was special was the culture that they had created. They had created a little acronym called the Y, 4 C's, 2 T's. And if you took each letter meant a word and then an explanation. And it was fascinating to me because I had never, ever seen in the real estate business a company who was willing to put their values on the table and simply tell what they were. And Gary and his first agent leadership council created those by Gary asking the question, why do we get along so well? And they came up with 200 words, whatever it was, and they narrowed it down to the little words in the acronym, like the W stood for win-win. The explanation was or no deal.
That's right.
The I stood for integrity. Do the right thing, and on it goes. And I'd never seen it before. And they not only talked about it, they had it in writing. Who has it in writing?
Right.
The second thing that fascinated me was the profit share model, because every owner in that franchise agrees to share profits with people in the company up to 47%, 45 to 47%. And that was unheard of. But the third thing that gripped me was I could see that his economic model was not totally recession-proof, but I could see why the top agents wouldn't leave when the market dips. Now, new people might leave, but your producing agents, highly producing agents, aren't going to leave you.
What was it about the model that would cause producing agents
that?
to stay?
Because the cap that the agents pay the brokerage firm is capped. The amount they pay the brokerage firm is capped. So as soon as they hit 100%, why would anybody leave?
You're getting 100% of your commission,
And
right?
a really highly productive agent, if they have a decent average sales price, will cap in a month,
Right.
or 2 months, or maybe 3, and have the rest of the year at 100%. So it doesn't matter what the market does. Gary will teach them how to sell in a seller's market, and he'll teach them how to sell in a buyer's market. So why would they leave? And I found that to be true.
Right.
And then the fourth thing that I found so fascinating was the fact that if you really implemented that culture, it would make everybody sticky.
So what did that do for the industry? Because you just mentioned it wasn't written down. Values for a real estate firm were not written down at the time. You have this capping model. You have a profit sharing program. And all of those things together cause a little bit of a stickiness. What did that do as you kind of took this model to Oklahoma, started to spread it?
Well, we did really, really, really good. And we were highly profitable quickly, and agents loved the model. But now, of course, when we opened in Oklahoma, I focused a lot on the culture because I had learned about culture in the office I owned before I ever heard of Keller Williams. And I learned that what you had to do to get that culture inside everyone's heart. And make them unified around it. And so that the experiences I had prior to hearing about Keller Williams is where I learned to do that. So the minute that Gary shows me the Y4C2Ts, all of these ideas come into my head about how if I were involved in Keller Williams, how I would get that piece to become part of their heart.
And how did you do that?
I taught them to be culture watchers, and I taught them to share every single story that they saw happen within the market center, because not all of us see everything.
Right.
And the way you build culture is to tell the culture stories. So when you get people excited about the culture, they really begin to watch people. It helps them become more effective in helping build culture. And then everybody wants to share their stories because they're really good stories.
Yeah. Well, so Mo, you have this region in Oklahoma. It's highly successful. Then we move to Austin.
Well, after 3 years, Gary has consulted with Bain Hinion, who was such a dynamic man. We lost him several years ago.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's gone, but what a legacy he left. And he encouraged Gary to find a CEO. And I took it upon myself to help Gary find a CEO. And I found 2 or 3 people that I referred to Gary, flew to Austin, introduced him, and I didn't know it at the time, but Bain told Gary that he had a CEO in his company. And Gary said, "Who is it?" And he said, "Mo." And finally, at a regional meeting, Gary came to me and asked me if I would be willing to throw my hat in the ring. And I'm telling you, Leslie, I was stunned. Because remember, I'm an old music teacher in the public schools.
Yeah.
And I knew I have never had a class at I have a degree, but I've never had a class in business in my life. And that was another reason why I wanted to hook up with Gary, is because I could tell he was brilliant in business. And I thought, oh, I could learn so much from him. And I did. Whatever I know about business, I learned through experiencing Keller Williams and having Gary as a mentor in the early years. And that's why I was successful in Oklahoma, because I followed his models to the T. I got that manual out, and I did step 1, and then I did step 2, and I discovered that it worked. And this may not be the place to tell the story, but I had years and years and years later, I had an office in Oklahoma that crashed and burned. And it was one of the most profitable offices out of all real estate offices in Oklahoma, not just Keller Williams. It was a fabulous office, and in 1 month, 67 cappers left.
Wow.
And the top agents were still there, but they were trying to decide what they were going to do because they were going to leave too. When I found out about it, I knew that it would be a very difficult task to bring it from the ashes and rebuild it. So I went to the ALC and I said, when I ask you the question, who among you are great leaders, what two names pop into your mind? They gave me two names, and they were all unanimous in the names. And I interviewed both people and chose one. And because I chose the right leader, I helped her learn all about ALC, and she had one of the best ALCs I've seen in the country or in any country I've been to. And that office is so good now. It's just unbelievable. And what did I do? I followed the models of our early day models. And we're following them to the T. Every one of the economic principles, the profit share, we're starting to profit share big time now. The profit's growing. It is so exciting to watch. So when people say to me, well, the models are outdated, I look at them and say, no, I don't think so. And
you've seen the fruits of that. You've seen the results of that.
And one reason why real estate franchises begin to falter is because they quit following the model, or they believe it's out of date. You can tweak models
100%.
the rest of your life.
Sure.
Tweaking it is different than ignoring it.
Absolutely.
And I discovered, I said to myself, I'm going to be 89 years old in May. And I said to myself, this was 5 years ago, I said, I want to prove before I kick the bucket that I still have it.
I mean, you do, Mo. Let's be honest.
I rebuilt out of the ashes. I helped rebuild out of the ashes this wonderful, wonderful operation, and it was all because I chose the right leader.
So
going back,
so you step into the CEO role, and it is fascinating, right? Because you are a school teacher, had franchise, real estate.
Scared half to death.
Exactly. And I will sidebar it by saying, I do believe that artists and musicians tend to have a little bit of something, right? Because there is this tenacity around practice and that skill and all of that is so translatable that we sometimes can miss. But you had that, right?
Right.
So you come in to take over as CEO. What is the first thing that you did, knowing that you don't have an MBA behind your name, right? And you know real estate and you know the models.
I did the due diligence that I should have done before I came. I might not have come.
Jumped in and then said, wait, let me just peel back the curtain, see what happens.
I heard everybody at our regional meetings talk about how well they were doing, and I thought everybody was doing well. And then when I came and actually saw the financial statements, took a look at the numbers, I realized we had a lot of problems. So the first thing I did was I changed my mindset. I thought I was coming to grow the company and build the company, when in actuality, the good Lord brought me there to clean
house.
it up, clean house. So we had 45 offices at the time I came, and I closed 15 of them. I did it eyeball to eyeball with every single person, and my dialogue was, you know what, Joe Blow, whatever their name was, I said, my conscience will not allow me to let you lose any more money. For example, on one of them, I said, I know that you're using your retirement funds to keep this thing afloat.
Right.
And I'm going to give you 30 days to find an owner, I don't think you have anything to sell but a few desks and a few phones and some copy machines. But if you can find an owner who would strike some sort of a deal with you, that would be fine, or I will close it. And in 30 days, I closed it because he couldn't find anybody who...
Mo did not come in as CEO to make a bunch of friends. She came in to clean house and make some strong, hard decisions.
That's right.
Which
so
was
I closed
important.
15 offices, and then I foreclosed. I call it foreclosing on 5 regions that hadn't done anything. So once it took me a year to get that much done.
Wow.
And along the way, I booted out of the company the most popular regional director we had because I caught him cheating. And then I put a lot of pressure on operating principals who are responsible for the success of the market center to de-hire 17 team leaders out of 30 offices that remained. And another thing I did was I raised the royalty from 4% to 6%. And it really doesn't matter because the royalty is capped.
Exactly.
So the regions were very concerned when I did that. And I thought, somebody's going to go on a hill and find a cross with me hanging upside down. That's how upset they were.
Right.
But they quickly got over it and realized it was going to help them too.
How did you know that those were the things that you needed to do when you got into this role?
I confirmed it with an individual who was a turnaround artist. Because remember, I'm a music teacher.
Right.
And I hadn't learned about turnaround artists. And he gave me a piece of advice. He said, when you're in cleanup mode, don't worry about growth mode. Get it cleaned up first.
Great feedback.
And then figure out exactly what's going to be your value. And of course, Gary was a genius at that because the classes that he wrote, he and different people wrote, were so wonderful. And I think you remember when we applied for the top training award
top training organization
of all companies in the world.
That's right.
And
125, I think, right? T125, I think was the name of it.
And we won it every year for I don't know how many years.
We couldn't win anymore. They put us in some archive.
Wow.
They're like, 5 years, number 1, you guys can't win anymore. So,
and then when you know what your value is, and people begin to experience that value, then agents got excited about helping team leaders recruit, and we began to grow.
That's great.
And we grew to 50,000.
Well, you have to talk about this. So clean house, and then Mo had a vision.
And my vision was to build the company under my leadership to 50,000
agents.
I wanted at least 500 offices. And we actually had a few more, 520 or something like that. And then I wanted 10% of our agent base to have a financial statement of $1 million or more. And we hit that. So we planted our flag.
How important, right?
the growth just began to be so strong because the agents got excited. Leslie, this is the only company that I know of in the world who became the number one company in franchising.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have any hired salespeople
Right.
to sell
Right.
franchises.
It happened organically.
It
inside
happened
of the company.
organically because uh, a little over 20% of the agent base got really excited about profit share.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who got the most excited make about $1 million a year.
Right. Right.
You know?
Well, and it's interesting, Mo, because one of your big legacies inside of Keller Williams is culture, right? You are the culture keeper, the queen, the protector of, right?
Yeah.
would
I
you agree
used
with
to
that?
be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is it didn't start that way. You came in and shook the snow globe a little bit, right? And it is
I established standards. And when you have strong standards and you let people know that you're not going to compromise those standards, then decisions become much easier because you know what you believe.
Right.
And so, one thing that I did that I really am proud of is anytime we were threatened to be sued, and of course we were much smaller back then,
Sure.
and our society has become more litigious, but anybody who threatened a lawsuit against us, I was on a plane going to their location, meeting them in person. And I had a special little ritual that I would do. And when I finished with that little ritual, they'd had time to defuse the anger or the hurt. And I had an opportunity to say, what can I do for you to show you that we really care? And they would tell me, and it was always something pretty small.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I could have a certain training come, or I could send them some books or whatever.
Right.
And we would part with a shaking hands and a hug because they knew that I cared.
Right.
And I did that over and over.
Right. Well, and it's an interesting thing when you have strong standards and you live via the culture and create the space for people to really align to the culture and to choose the culture, and to have a ritual around the culture. And then you have the vision, this very clear vision of this is where we're going. This is what, I'm planting my flag on. How much people follow that, because it is a clear direction. It's a clear north. It is not contentious, right?
Oh no.
Right. It is something
where
people can
we
get
are going.
right, and it's something that people can really get behind.
And it's easy for them to fix their mindset to achieve that goal when everybody embraces it.
Exactly.
And what's exciting to me is that Gary Keller allowed this company to be based on our culture is based on values. And what that really means is it's based on eternal truths. For example, win-win or no deal will be just as true 500 years from now as it is today. integrity, do the right thing. Now, many different cultures will believe the right thing might be a different thing, but the point is, in our American culture, in our Canadian culture, in our culture in France, in our culture in Istanbul, because we're in 69 or 70 countries, we will be committed to do the right thing. And that's going to be true 1,000 years from now.
Right.
Customers always come first. Clients always come first. If you're representing the client or if you're representing the customer, the seller or the buyer, they come first and you listen to them. So having values that are based on truths that don't go away. I had an agent come to me one time and she said to me, I just loved her to pieces. She said to me, Mo, I want to share with you my truth. And because I knew her so well, I knew she would receive what I said. And I said, sweetheart, I don't really want to know your truth. And the reason is because I had a whole bunch of truths and I discovered they were all not true. And she had a hearty laugh, but went ahead and told me her truth. But you get my point.
Right, exactly. It's something to align on.
I'm interested in the truth. And there are just certain things in life we know that are true. And Gary and his people discovered a lot of what those were.
Right.
When they created the little acronym.
Right, exactly. Well, and I think it's, as much as it is a stake in the ground around, if you don't believe in any of these, you have a choice to go elsewhere.
That's right.
Right? So
that's right.
It's a very simple option. If you don't like it, then that's okay. That's okay too, right?
It's okay.
Yeah. Well, so again, as you think back to your journey as the CEO of this company, when do you just go back to one or a couple of the hardest things that you've had to deal with?
Well, this one is interesting, and it was hard. I had a loan originator who was helping one of our offices, helping the agents get loans for their clients, contact me, and she said, please help me. Your owner is sending me pornography.
Oh my gosh.
And the first thing that came through my mind was, I wonder if he sent it on his computer, because if he did, I'm pretty sure it probably went through our servers. So I had my executive assistant at the time call him, but I did not tell her why she was calling him. I said, just call this gentleman and tell him to be in Austin on Thursday of next week at 1:00 in the afternoon. He needs to see me and Mark Willis, who was president at the time, and I was CEO, I think. So I got with Mark and we planned out what would happen. Step one would be, first of all, we would have her send the pornography to our tech people so they could do whatever you do to find out if it came through our server. And of course it had. And then when the gentleman arrived, he was taken to Mark Willis's office. And I suggested to Mark that he have the tech people come in and explain. They had confirmed it was on his computer, and it had passed through our servers. And then I suggested they play the video of pornography, force him to look at it with them in the room. And they did that. At the end, Mark said, "Now you have to meet with Mo." So he comes in, he sits down. I do not look at him. You know, in the book I wrote, I talk about love, deal with the issue, and then some more love. I skipped the love with this guy. So he sat down, and I didn't say, "How was your flight?" I didn't say, "How was the weather?" I looked at him in the eye, and I said, "We are not a match. You now have two choices. One is to resolve this problem in court, if that's what you choose to do. The other is sell your market center in 30 days to someone that Mark would approve." And he looked at me shocked, and he said, "But Mo, you are a Christian. You have to forgive me." And I said, "Well, I might if I heard what I believed was a really sincere apology." So he proceeds to give me a sincere apology. I look at him in the eyes and say, "I forgive you. Now you have two choices."
Right.
In other words, if you have a standard, you stick to the standard. You don't shove your standard under the rug
Right.
just because of forgiveness.
Sure. I forgive you, but you still have to go.
You still have to suffer the consequence of your
Of your
action.
actions, 100%.
And
And what would it be like for the other person, for that loan originator, if you didn't take action against
Right.
this person, right?
so
That in and of itself has consequences.
that's exactly right. So, to make a long story short, he chose to sell, and
Smart man.
Mark approved the purchaser. He was a very good operator in another market center. That one was interesting, and oh my, there are so many. Probably the second one that I would share, I'm debating between when I removed the regional director or the story of the business divorce. But I'm going to tell you about the business divorce. I had a call from two of our owners who were partners. These gentlemen were very, very close friends all through college. And they had purchased a Keller Williams franchise together. But they were beginning to have some cracks come in the mortar. And they called me one day and they said, "Mo, would you come and talk to us and help us determine whether or not we really should have a business divorce?" Well, I hadn't had anybody in the world ask me about a business divorce before, and I thought, what's the procedure for that? And so I said, yes, I would come and at least visit with them about it. I didn't know if I could be of any real help or not. So all the way on the plane, I just prayed and prayed for wisdom. And I got there and I thought, what am I going to do when I get in that room? But I walked in the room and the two of them sat down. We were at a round table. And then it hit me what I should do. Now, this may seem real strange to a lot of your listeners, but if you know me, it wouldn't be strange. I looked at them, and I knew one of them was Jewish and one of them was Christian. And I talked a bit about their long-lasting friendship and how, important it was that someday that be restored.
Mhm.
And I said, we both worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Um, and then I looked at the other one and said, you worship the same God. You call it the God of Jesus. So grab a hand and we're going to pray for wisdom. And they took my hand really quickly. And then I stared at their hands. they took they took their hand and I just prayed a very simple prayer for wisdom, but I also prayed for the relationship to be restored. And then it became apparent to me that what I needed to do was to flip a coin, and whoever had heads would leave, and I would talk to this one alone. The other one would wait in the reception area, and then I would reverse it. Well, I discovered very quickly that they had divergent goals.
Ah.
One of them wanted to sell the company
Mm.
and really get out of the business and spend time with the family and go fishing. And they had made a lot of money, they had done well. But the other one wanted to grow.
Mm.
So I said, yes, I believe you do need a divorce, and here's what I've discovered. And so then I just gave him advice about be sure you get your lawyers, whoever they are, so they can help you figure out the division of the assets.
Mhm.
And because one of you is going to have to buy the other one out.
Mhm.
And then be sure to have your CPA there so that in the discussion they can listen for any tax consequences that might occur. So they flew back to their homes and they got the attorney and they split. One bought the other
Mm.
one out. They seemed relatively pleased with the deal.
Good.
5 years later, at 11 o'clock at night, my phone rang. I thought somebody maybe had died. It was them. And they said, we just wanted to tell you, Mo, that the relationship has been restored.
Oh,
We've been on
wow.
vacation together. And then they told me all the things they had done together. And I felt such joy that the
Mm.
relationship had been restored, even though they had a hard business
Yeah.
decision to make.
Oh, I love that story. That's
And
really
isn't
great.
it great?
It's great. Well, what do you when you think about, being in this high pressure role, what is the one if you could, nail down one thing, what would you say the biggest learning that you've had in running a hugely successful organization?
I've learned the importance of standards and following the models
Mhm. It's great.
and systems.
Mhm. Yeah.
It really works.
Mhm.
And then that precious Mark Willis comes along and he puts his flag in the ground and he says, we're going to be the number one company in the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we all bought into that.
Mhm.
He asked me to stay a few more years, even though I stepped down from being CEO. And he said, Mo, I want you to stay and I want you to be the wind beneath my wings.
No. You're kind of the wind beneath everybody's wings, let's be honest. Truly.
So I had the joy of helping him,
Mhm. Mhm.
do that. And it was so wonderful when that happened.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah. Well, what are
and we
you
held that position for what, 20 some
It was a
years?
very long time, right? Very, very long.
I don't
The
know.
Triple Crown
Yes,
was agent count, volume, and units,
right,
right? I remember that
right.
day. Big day. What are you most proud of?
In my business life
Mhm.
or my personal?
Well, let's go business first, but I wanna hear about personal.
Um, I am so proud that I had the experience of learning about culture before I ever met Gary, so that when I came on board, it became very clear to me what we needed to do. We needed to establish our MVVBP, our mission statement, our vision statement. Gary and Dave Jinks came together and did that, and then I met with them and I said, "Gentlemen, you're forgetting one thing, lives worth living." And they added that, and then we added God, family, and business. And I'm so thankful. I don't know that it's proud. I'm just so thankful I had the privilege of being involved in all that, because that's where my heart is in teaching people to work together. And then see, we had dozens of countries involved. We had different religions, different backgrounds, different color of the skin. We have everything in our company, and to be able to navigate around that in such a way that the whole dream was to build a company of people who had each other's backs, who cared about each other, who cared about their clients, and who understood that service and value is what it's all about, because the higher purpose of business is to give to whoever needs it.
Right.
And to care and to share.
Right.
And there was a time that we actually got that.
I mean, Mo, I think an example of just the culture in action was, and I remember this was one of the first inspirational mornings that you and I worked on together, which was an agent donated his kidney to another real estate agent. And it sounds insane for a normal listener, but it is an example of the depth.
They do that all the time now. I don't know how many kidneys our agents have donated.
I think I saw something recently that was like, I remember when there was an inspirational morning where somebody donated a kidney. I need a kidney. So anybody else just saw that recently, and again, to go back to what you talked about around, aligned humans that are marching towards something that they believe in, but also providing them the life that they want for themselves beyond maybe what they could ever imagine, causes people to show up very, very differently. And that is your legacy, right? That is what you have been able to give to Keller Williams. And I think the people in the organization owe you a huge debt of gratitude for being that beacon of culture and being the beacon of truth and being the beacon of the values, right?
Well, somebody said to me not long ago, what is the bottom line of leadership? And my response was, love your people. Care about your people.
Easy to do when it's a small team. It can be hard to do when there are so many layers.
Right.
And you've been such an example of that. I remember you telling a story of going to an airport. And this is just you showing up as Mo, going to an airport, and I think you had just had knee replacement or something like that. And the TSA agent was giving you a hard time. And you said, be Mo, just be kind and be
I was ready
lovely.
to give him a lecture.
Right?
I had it in my head.
You were frustrated and yet showed up the way that was core and central to you.
Well, I had, that thing called your conscience. I don't know if kids nowadays understand what a conscience
Right.
is.
The angel and the devil right here,
Yeah.
right? Tell him what you feel, Mo. Mo, stay with your standards.
The good guy said, "Hey, Mo, what if you mouthed off and somebody in that line is from Keller Williams?"
Mm-hmm.
And when I was putting my jacket on, there was a tap on my shoulder, and it was an agent from the Northwest office in Austin. And he looked at me and said, "Mo Anderson, I have wanted to meet you for 20 years," because he'd been in the company that long. Now, what if I would have mouthed off, made a scene, and do
Exactly.
what I sometimes do? He wouldn't have wanted to meet me.
Right.
He would have.
Or he would have had Mo stands for culture, but I saw how she treated that TSA agent.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Right. Love your people. Love your people, even if they're TSA agents giving you a hard time about your knee or whatever it was,
Because
right?
most TSA agents are very kind.
Of course. They have a job. They're just doing a job, right?
Right.
Exactly. And that's where love on so many levels can be really hard.
And that's what leadership is about, is showing your people that you do have enough discipline to keep your mouth shut at least once in a while.
True. Very true. It's good feedback. Good feedback. Well, Mo, what aspiring CEOs out there, what would you say to them is the biggest lesson that you've learned and something that you would give to them as a lesson?
When you're the leader of a large company, it can be very lonely. Just make sure you have a mentor, a leadership mentor that you can...
Or coach.
A leadership coach. Excuse me, Leslie. Can't believe I said that in front of you.
Oh, I love it. No, but a mentor, truly. Yeah, anybody.
You need a coach so that you have someone to be able to sound off to, where you can get it off your chest, and that person will respect the confidentiality and give you the love and the advice and the help that you need.
Absolutely. That is great feedback. And I agree.
You've got
It's
to
hard.
have a coach.
It's hard if you don't have anybody, because then you're keeping that.
You're keeping it inside, and that creates health problems.
Love that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, Mo. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. And I owe you a debt of gratitude, because I think back to my journey and having such strong women leaders who have standards, who understand things about business like economic models. They understand what it means to have standards, but also have a lot of love and compassion behind it. And, you have been somebody like that for me. Mary Tennant has also been another woman who has been such an
I'm
example.
the one they call the Velvet Hammer.
The Velvet Hammer. It is very true. And taught me so much about the importance of culture and the importance of leading with a lot of compassion, which I think we miss sometimes. It is so easy to be in business and lack compassion and run organizations like a railroad, like a train car running through a railroad track, right? And so gratitude to you for that.
Well, I thank you for interviewing at the company, because we got to work together so closely on the inspirational morning, and you were my rock, and I thank you so much.
Aww.
I love you to pieces.
Oh, I love you.
And I'm so, so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mo. This has been wonderful. Appreciate you. And thank you guys for joining. As always, subscribe to the As You Are platform, the As You Are podcast on all platforms, and we will see you next time.